You're listening to the Habs Banter podcast. This podcast is brought to you by All Habs and features co-hosts Corey DeZormo and Marc Lescutra. Hey guys, we are episode 5 of Habs Banter, 6 if you include the special edition of the trade deadline, but we're going to roll with 5. Remember that you can subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. You can also subscribe to the audio of the feed on iTunes, and you can always search us on allhabs.net under the multimedia tab. Click on Habs Banter, and you'll find these two doofuses. Mark, how's your week, buddy?
Not bad. Parents are in town, so hanging out with them a little bit, and
Nice.
So just eating all at the restaurants. Oh my goodness, that's a great mug. Wow.
Thank you.
Boom.
Continue.
Anyways, I digress. So yeah, just good hanging out with them. It's cold still. Like it's kind of warming up now. Finally, I think winter's in the bag now.
We hope so. We hope so.
Yeah.
You probably just jinxed it. So
I definitely mushed it, and now we're screwed. So sorry, everyone.
Well done.
Anytime. Happy to help. Aside from that, West Coast road trip. So a little late for me. I don't know about you, but
I didn't watch any of the
I
games,
watched
man.
a little bit. I watched a couple first periods, but that's about it.
But you know what? It was nice to have some time throughout the week a little bit. Like, I tried to take advantage as much as possible. I tried to do a little sweet something for Chanel.
Put her face on a mug.
No, this was a baby shower favor, actually. So she got one of these at one of the baby showers.
Nice.
So anyway, this story is related. So
Okay.
This is a nice tie-in. Anyway, I figured I would do something nice, right? And like she was coming home late one night, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pack my hospital bag. So you know what I mean? Because like obviously I'm really excited, and I was like, it'll be something sweet, and she'll be happy like when she comes home as she sees my hospital bag.
And for context, for those that don't know, Corey and Chanel are expecting
We're
their first child in pretty
five
soon.
weeks.
5 weeks.
5 weeks. So we're almost a month away. So I'm like, I got to start prepping the hospital bag because our doctor was like, yep, you know what? Like the baby could really come at any point. Like, so I'm thinking, okay, I better start getting all this. So I prepare a list and everything, and I get everything ready to go. And I've got like, things like Advil, like painkillers, like massage oils, like labor tips and tricks, all this kind of different stuff, right? On this list. So I go to Shoppers and I go to get everything. And I forgot my list. But I was like, all right, I've got a fine idea, right? So I walk into Shoppers, I get all my stuff. I come home, I pack my bag, and Chanel comes home, and she looks at the bag, and she's like, what, are you going on vacation or something? I looked in the bag, all that was in there was like Pringles, cashews, magazines, and like my sweatpants. That was it. I couldn't remember anything that was on the list.
That is a disaster.
I couldn't remember anything that was on the list.
I'm so glad there is a list for you to go back for a second try on.
Yeah, so I got to go back. I got to go back sometime this week. Anyway, so we're gonna bring Amy on, who is part of the All Habs and Rocket Sports Media team, and we're gonna talk to her about the Ice Caps, and we're gonna intro a new pregame warm up.
All right, so now we're here with Amy from All Habs and Rocket Sports Media. She's gonna talk to us about some of the prospects in St. John's, and also we're gonna get things started with finally a new pregame warm-up.
Yes.
There's been some chatter on Twitter about this. People are excited, mainly us, about Snack Banter.
Yeah, and this was all Amy's idea.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I love food, so.
We all
Yeah.
love food.
That's
Let's be
why
real.
we all get along so well.
Okay, so lay some ground rules on Snack Banter. Like we need a quick description of what Snack Banter is.
Well, this actually started because Corey was live tweeting his grocery shopping experience,
Yep.
It was a great day.
everyone on Twitter was pretty riveted to that. It was a groundbreaking moment in social media.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
And so we started talking about like cereals that I needed you to pick me up because at the grocery store, because who doesn't love cereal? And so then from there, it just turned into, well, you were looking for a new warm up, and we decided, hey, well, we should try some really outrageous snacks. They don't necessarily have to be disgusting. They could be if we start to challenge and dare one another, which could get very interesting. But, it's kind of like, all right, let's all bring some outrageous snack that we've either never tried before or sounds interesting or just sounds like it could gross everybody out. And we all have to try them and give our reviews.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't you start us off, Amy?
All right. So I went sort of safe for our first, easing into the snack banter.
Yeah, that's fair.
Before we get too crazy. And when it comes to like snacks, everybody loves potato chips. I'm usually a pretty standard potato chip gal. I like the plain. I like the sour cream and onion. I've already laid down the rules with Corey that if anybody puts all dressed anywhere near me, I'm going to barf because that's just not my thing. So I broke the mold and I picked up a very, very flavored bag of Lay's potato chips, but in a flavor that I normally wouldn't buy. But gosh darn it, I mean, cheddar bacon mac and cheese.
Oh yeah, sounds really
cheddar
good.
bacon mac and cheese potato chips.
Sounds great.
I mean, bacon and cheese.
Yep, check.
Like literally everything on the bag is delicious.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I might eat the bag. Like
you might have to eat the bag.
Let us know how it tastes.
All right,
Yeah,
so I'm
go
gonna bust one of these out. It's gonna go really good with really well with the coffee that I'm drinking. But
great pairing.
Let's try some cheddar bacon mac and cheese here. Don't mind my crunching right in your ear.
No, that's all good.
Actually, the crunching adds a nice. It adds a nice touch. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So first thoughts.
So.
Actually,
so I don't know where the hell they get mac and cheese out of this.
It just tastes like bacon.
It basically tastes like everybody's had cheddar sour cream chips, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Tastes like that.
So it basically tastes like I'm eating. Hold on, I need another try. Let's see here. We need more crunching. So it basically tastes like I'm eating cheddar sour cream chips that got dropped in a little bit of bacon grease.
Oh.
I mean, it doesn't sound terrible.
It's not terrible. It's
Marc
pretty
heard the word bacon. He said,
Yeah,
it doesn't sound terrible.
Well, that's, I saw them in the grocery store and I was like, yes, cheddar bacon mac. Like that is going to be absolute deliciousness. And honestly, it tastes like I'm eating barbecue chips.
Oh,
okay, so let's one out of 10. What is it? 10 being best.
Flavor, I'm going to give it a 5. Because
Oh.
I would sit and snack on these. They're not bad, but accuracy as far as to what they're advertising, I'm giving them like a 2.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's fair.
Because that's just false advertising. That tastes nothing like mac and cheese.
Fair enough. Okay.
Corey, do you want to go next before your food goes bad?
Yeah, I would. Thank you for thinking of me.
Yeah, I'm a
It's
team
rare
player.
that happens, but thank you.
It's so polite.
Okay, so I struggled a lot trying to find something for Snack Banter. I really did. And when Chanel and I went to go do groceries yesterday, I said to her, like, I had to lay the ground rules. I'm like, look, like, usually we go, like, aisle by aisle. We take our time. Like, you guys would know that through my live tweet groceries, right? But
yeah.
I said to her going in there, I said, listen, I'm going to have to, like, go off on my own here and try and find something a little extravagant for Snack Banter. And she's like, what is Snack Banter? Anyway, she just kind of like let it go. And anyway, as soon as we walked in, she's like, oh, what about these? And she points to a dragon fruit. And I've never tried a dragon fruit, and I felt like it was
so good.
So I felt like it was like a pretty safe thing for me to try for one. But I had no idea. Like I looked at it and I was like, this thing literally looks like a dragon. And I had no idea. I was trying to pick one out of like 100, right? Dragon fruit. And I'm like trying to touch them all and stuff. Finally, this guy who was like watching me, this guy who was watching me like comes by and he's like, you having a little bit of trouble? And I'm like, dude, I can't pick a dragon fruit. Like, I don't know what's ripe and like what's not. Like, what color? You know, like some are like still like a dark pink, some are like a light pink or whatever. Anyway, he helped me pick a dragon fruit for me. Apparently, these things grow on cacti, cactus, whatever. So I already pre-peeled mine because I didn't want to like knife myself on video and put blood all over my computer. So here we go. It's white and it's got these like seeds. Here, I'll put it up to the screen.
Oh, I
It's
see.
because it kind of looks a little kiwi-ish inside.
Yeah,
it
so
does.
I read this morning when I was trying to get a definition of it that it's like part of the kiwi family sort of. Anyway,
I think
Here
you'll
we
like it.
um it's not that sweet. It kind of tastes like nothing. And I'm like a really big that's really disappointing. I'm going for more.
That's the theme today. The theme is it
disappointing.
tastes like
I feel
nothing.
It looks so extravagant from the outside, and on the inside, it's so boring. But I'm a really big kiwi guy, and this thing just like doesn't live up to the
And
kiwi
yet
fam.
you can't stop eating it.
I don't know. I'd give it like a 6.
All right.
A 6 on flavor or a 6 on what you were expecting?
No, it gets an absolute like 12 out of 10 in terms of appeal. Like this thing looks delicious. Like the whole thing looks delicious, but it gets a 6 in taste. Easy.
All right.
Okay,
Man.
Scoots, you're up.
All right. So Corey
Got
can
teams here.
attest to this. Well, you wouldn't find me in the natural food section of the grocery store very often.
The last place.
So that's why I thought I was like, this is where I need to go
Mhm.
if I'm gonna get something for Snack Banter. So I actually got a multi-pronged approach. First, we have garden veggie straws.
Oh, those are so
Oh God, no!
No artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives.
good. Dude, those are delicious.
Are they though?
No.
They're the best, man. They're so
No.
good.
They're vegan and non-GMO, so that's a plus. I'm not surprised Corey likes them though, so I'm just gonna dive in real quick, and I have a little something to wash them down with after. That's
You're
when
gonna
things.
eat air. It's like eating air.
It's like eating deliciousness.
Honestly, so like visually, not stoked.
Give him a nice whiff. Give him a nice whiff. There you go. No?
So here's what they look like.
Dude, put your mic like away from your mouth, I feel like.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm just gonna put.
I'm thinking not so much.
I don't know. His face doesn't look too disappointed.
Honestly, those are really bland.
What?
It's
Very
like
bland.
eating air.
No,
I'm
I like.
gonna
I
eat
like
one more
veggie
with the
sticks.
mic nice and close.
Nice.
I mean, I don't hate them.
Dude, I snack on those quite
All
a
right.
bit.
So, I thought I might need to wash these down with something. And in the same section, I found this vegetable juice.
Oh.
But not like- Are you thinking like yummy vegetables that you'd like to snack on? Because
No,
if you
is it like
are, you'd be wrong. Let me tell you about the ingredient list.
rutabagas.
Beetroot juice,
Uh,
carrot juice,
uh,
celeriac juice, whatever that is. Potato juice, didn't know that was a thing.
Oh,
Radish juice. The vegetable content in this is 99.6%. And it's all organic. So,
this is gonna be the worst.
here we go.
So wait, it doesn't have like fruit juice in it as well to help.
Nope.
It's just
This
Oh,
sucks.
Yeah.
honestly, I just smelled it and it's so bad.
that
Amy, it sucks you can't see his reaction till later.
really
Honestly?
good.
Okay, take a swig, man. Get in it.
I actually
Yeah.
now have a big regret now that I've smelled it.
Yo, no regrets. Dig in.
Sorry.
Man.
What? Good or bad?
Oh, bad. That's a solid
Yeah.
That's a soft 1 out of 10 on that one for me.
Are you gonna finish it throughout the ep?
I mean, I might have a no.
So what does it taste like?
It tastes exactly like all those things I listed. Like, I didn't know
So
you
you're,
could. Ugh, sucks.
so you're drinking like a
You're just drinking a vegetable.
radish potato.
Yeah.
That
Well,
doesn't sound appealing.
I managed to eat my entire dragon fruit while you did that, so
Well,
Nice.
thank you.
I'm going to refrain from finishing off this bag of Lay's because you'll not be able to hear
You
any
literally won't hear a
conversation.
single thing.
No.
So while Mark chugs his Beetlejuice or whatever it is, let's start actually talking about hockey because I feel like at this point we have about 15 to 20 minutes of non-hockey related intros. So
Yeah. Well, yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's a warm up. We
just
have
giving
warm
the
up.
people what they want.
Yeah, it's a yeah. Okay, so let's start with the deadline last week, Amy, and you were on your at Flyers Rule Twitter account, in which did you have a chance to explain your allegiance yet?
I have not, and I
Okay,
should because
so let's
I
get
think
that out of the way first. Like, Amy's Twitter handle is at Flyers Rule, and
Oh,
and let me just say, when I first joined the All Habs team, I was a little bit confused. Like I was a little bit confused, and I speak for Mark a little bit here too. When Mark joined our fantastic team, I got a text and was like, "So, is Amy like a Flyers fan, or is she a Habs fan?" So we need to give you the chance to explain to the world and the
Explain.
masses of the Habs Banter Legion. I just spilled my
That's right.
coffee all over the place with my hand. Your allegiance to the Habs and or Flyers.
That's what the coffee. That's what happens when you throw down with a Flyers fan. You know,
It's true. It's true.
that stuff's bound to happen. Yeah, this is an ongoing explanation that I need to give, and I'm putting it out there that like changing your Twitter handle is actually such a pain.
Yeah.
Because that's how people find you. And so for years, I've been wanting to change it, but it's really hard to do, especially covering hockey and stuff, you know. But so when I first joined Twitter, I chose Flyers Rule because, yes, born and raised and currently live in Eastern Pennsylvania. So I'm a lifetime Flyers fan. Don't hold that against me. I have always made it a point to be the so-called ambassador of level-headed Flyer fans on social media, and I'm the first to admit that there's a lot of Flyers fans who legitimately give the rest of us a bad name, and I don't apologize for any of them because that's just how they are. But I am also legitimately a Habs fan. I adopted the Habs as my second team. Basically because of the All Habs crew. And I probably, that was, my gosh, 2009 when the draft was in Montreal and we had our first draft tweet up, draft party kind of get together. And I got to meet Habs fans for the first time and absolutely fell in love with the team and what they stand for and the franchise and the legacy. And the great thing is, I can solidly be a fan of both teams because the teams themselves, their histories, and their play styles are complete polar opposites.
Yep.
Obviously.
True.
Yep, that's true.
And so they're nothing like one another. And so I enjoy supporting the Flyers for very Flyers kinds of reasons. They're not a finesse team. They're not they're just, if I really want to watch people beat the snot out of each other, then I love watching a Flyers game.
Right.
But the Habs, I've really come to respect the team and the history, and I love the roster, and I love complaining about the coaching and full-fledged. Yes, like full-fledged Habs fans as well. So don't let the Twitter handle fool you. I'm incognito, deep in enemy territory.
Okay,
in disguise.
That's good. Thank you for finally getting that cloud from blowing it away from over our heads. It's just been hanging over us for far too long.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So let's go back to the deadline last week. You were tweeting a ton leading up to the 3 o'clock deadline about a simple paper transaction that the Montreal Canadiens failed to complete for some of their prospects, making them ineligible for the AHL prospects. Is for the playoffs? Is that correct?
Yes, I was having a conniption all day on trade deadline day. For those who don't understand how it works for the paper transaction, in order for a player to be eligible to play in the AHL playoffs, they need to be on the AHL roster by the 3 o'clock p.m. trade deadline mark.
Yes.
It doesn't mean they actually have to fly back to their team. It's just a paper transaction. They get sent down and then they get recalled immediately right after 3 o'clock. And you were seeing tons of teams doing that all during the day. And quite frankly, the Habs, in my opinion, aren't making the playoffs this year. The Ice Caps still have a shot. It's not a sure thing, but they're right on the cusp.
Right.
And you want your players to have that kind of experience if they have the opportunity. So I was having a conniption. 3 o'clock came and went. I was updating the AHL transaction page probably every 30 seconds and just getting absolutely irate. And even the next day, Tuesday, came and went. The transaction page still showed that St. John's was one of the only teams that hadn't had paper transactions happen. So I was livid. I was just absolutely livid. Well, then Friday comes, and I'm watching the Ice Caps game Friday night, and I hear mention of AHL eligibility for the playoffs. And so I go to the AHL transaction page, and I think a bunch of hamsters probably update that site. It's impossible to even get in-game updates timely on the AHL's website. So it must have taken them probably 4 days to actually update their transaction page. And sure enough, St. John's was on it.
No way! I didn't even hear this.
I have good. Well, yeah, kind of. I was leaving this as breaking news on Habs Banter.
Oh, thank you.
So
Boom.
I have good news to report. 4 players were sent down and recalled on paper transactions.
Awesome.
Michael McCarron, Jacob Delarose, Morgan Ellis, and Ben Scrivens.
Whoa!
Wow, interesting.
Whoa, was right. For a couple of reasons. Now, it makes sense goaltending-wise. If they're going to make the playoff push, goaltending's been a little shaky in St. John's.
Right.
Not necessarily shaky, just not consistent. Fucali has his hot streaks, and Pasquale has his hot streaks. But obviously, they're saying, okay, well, we want one of the NHL goaltenders to go down and help out if they make the playoffs.
Right.
But the other part of it that's interesting is that the other rule is that after the 3 o'clock trade deadline passes, every NHL team then only has 4 AHL call-ups for the rest of the season, barring emergency call-ups if there's an injury and a hole needs to be filled.
That's right.
So my thought going into it would be, okay, they'd send down. I wasn't surprised with McCarron, Ellis, and Delarose. That makes sense. And I figured they would leave one of those call-ups open in case they wanted to look a Sherback, a Hudon again, or something like that.
Right.
But by sending Scrivens down and calling back up, they've now blown all 4 of their call-ups. So nobody else, as far as I can tell, that means nobody else is coming up unless it's emergency status this season.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So a little good news mixed with a little bad news.
Yes. But this also, we get so many people call up John Scott, and I'm going to leave my opinions on that aside for now, but it means that John Scott's not coming up. Udon's not coming up.
I think that's the more interesting one is Hudon not getting a call up too, because a lot of people have been wanting to see him have a shot, especially after the season he had last year. He's sort of built upon it this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he has. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, that's the more interesting one, is not having an opportunity to bring him up. I think the transactions to send the players down aren't all that surprising. I mean, I guess that means Andrighetto's not eligible either for the playoffs, if should they make it.
So that's
same with Lesio,
Bartley, Barbario.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of guys that are up right now, so they had to pick and choose pretty
Right. And I mean on the
pretty.
defensive side, the Habs are sort of dwindling away at the moment with all the injuries. So I guess
Yeah.
not sending down Bartley and Barberio isn't crazy surprising, but either way. What have you thought of Morgan Ellis so far with his call up
I
with the
am
Habs?
I'm a really big Morgan Ellis fan, and even more so this season now that I've watched every single Ice Caps game and have seen them play in person
Hmm.
on more times than I can count on two hands. Um, Morgan Ellis is a really smart two-way defenseman. He's a strong skater. He's a smooth skater. He reads plays really well. He's very aware of puck presence on the ice. He's not afraid to go into the boards. Um, and off ice, good character, seems to be a really good team guy. And he's got a wicked shot. At the AHL All-Star game, he came in third in the hardest shot contest. He was one of only three guys that hit over the 100-mile-an-hour mark.
Wow.
Um, he constantly sets himself up at the point and gets open, and guys forget that he's over there to cover him, and he usually finds himself alone at the point and gets a really accurate shot on net. I don't know that he's getting the ice time that he should be getting. I mean, I think he only played 6.5 minutes last night,
Yeah.
something around there, which I think is a bit of a disgrace. He seems to have gotten benched after one of the goals against.
Yep.
Um,
I saw that
I
one too.
Yeah, and I don't know that that was totally his fault. I think
I
there
don't think
was
it
some.
was either. It was a tough play. It was a tough play behind the net, in behind Condon, and the puck was trickling. It was bouncing all over the place. Ellis had a forward all over him. Tried to make a play. Puck bounced at the last second, like right over his stick, hit the board, so he just like lost the battle,
Mhm.
and they ended up taking it back to the point, and the shot came through with a tip. But I didn't think it was his fault necessarily. There's a ton of other players on the ice that should be covering up the point and supporting him on the
Yep.
boards anyway. But that was just my take on the goal. But you're right, he did end up getting benched after that. Well, not completely benched, but he didn't get a lot of ice time after, which is just it's too bad. Like it makes players like that hesitate, right? You want
Right.
when you call up guys at the end of the year to see what they can do, you want them to play hockey as relaxed and confident as possible.
That's right.
Sitting a young player is playing in what his third NHL game.
Right.
Sitting him on the bench isn't helping him at all. He's
Well,
not
and
learning.
sitting him in the no, and sitting him in the press box for the first two games that he was called up
That's
until
right.
they finally had enough garbage play from Bartley to put him in,
Yeah,
um, isn't helping either. Um,
agreed.
and this for me just lends itself to the consistent issue that we have with this team, that it seems just mishandling of the development of their prospects.
So what about McCarron? Let's talk about McCarron a bit. He had two games. I think it was two games this week where he was playing on a line with Alex Galchenyuk and Lars Eller. And a lot of
Mhm.
people, I liked what the line looked like from the eye test. And again, I didn't watch a ton because the games were all on super late, and I'm a big baby and I need my sleep.
Yeah.
But um, what do you like? Does McCarron? You've watched McCarron all season long in the AHL. Does he have the foot speed to play top 6 minutes in the NHL right now?
It's funny you asked that, because while I was pleased to see that he got the promotion to the second line with Eller and Galchenyuk, the first thought that I had out loud was, is he going to be able to keep up with them? And
Mm,
that's not a knock on McCarron whatsoever. It's a simple size issue. I mean, you're talking about he's got a big frame. He's 6'6", 230 some pounds. He's a big guy. So quickness is going to be an issue. And it's something, honestly, that has improved this season. The first time we interviewed him this year was back in October. So the season was relatively young at that point.
yeah.
And we had asked, how are your camps this year? And he was responding and saying, they were really good. He learned a lot, and that the Habs had given him some things to work on. And I asked specifically, okay, well, what did they tell you to work on? And his first response was speed. And I'm
Hmm.
going to give you actually a direct quote here from that interview. He said, I'm a big guy. Speed's always going to be an issue, not, but it's always something that I'm going to have to work on to get faster and quicker. So he admittedly knows that his speed that he has to continually work on. And from what we've seen in practices and whatnot, he's got pretty good work ethic. And his skating has seemed to improve even this year. I think he still has a little ways to go with that. There's, I've heard people use the adjective lumbering sometimes when it comes to, he's a big body on the ice and it's not smooth enough like some of his line mates, but
do you see
No, go ahead.
I was just going to
say,
do I
see it getting better?
No, do you see him more as because of size, speed, etc.? Do you see him more as a center or as a winger moving forward?
I say center.
Okay.
He's been groomed this season as a centerman. The only time he played on the wing this year was in his first call-up in December. He hasn't played on the wing since junior, and in fact, towards the end of junior last year, they moved him to center in junior.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So when he got called up and got put on the wing, I was, here we go. Tarian's dumping him on the wing, and he hasn't played there. He's a strong centerman. I think I groomed him for that, and I think they need to continue that.
And just adding to that, I think a lot of fans were angry to see McCarron playing center this week with Galchenyuk on the wing.
Big time, yeah.
But I think so. the biggest difference between McCarron and Galchenyuk is Marc keeps taking swigs of his Beetlejuice, and he just makes the grossest faces.
I'm halfway done now. I might have to stop because it's making me feel not so great.
That's not good.
So all I was going to say is that the biggest difference between McCarron and Galchenyuk is that McCarron played pro hockey in the AHL at center, right?
Right.
He was playing there, whereas Galchenyuk didn't have that AHL experience. He was straight up with a big club, and he played the wing. So he learned pro hockey at the wing. Not that I'm saying Galchenyuk shouldn't play center. If I'm going to give Therrien credit on that one, it's moving McCarron back over to center where he's been playing all season long and learning how to play in the AHL.
That's a good point.
Right.
So I want to ask you about Nikita Scherbak quickly.
Sure.
I am doing the All Habs mailbag this week, and there is a question about Nikita Scherbak. Where's his? I know he had an injury-riddled season. I know he's played a bit of center. Can you just give us a general hot take on Nikita Scherbak, where he's at, how he's doing?
Absolutely. And I'm happy to say Nikita Scherbak is coming along nicely. You are correct. He had a rough start to the first half of his season. He started off with an injury right away. That one took him quite a while to recover from. He didn't play. I don't think he was back in the lineup until sometime in December. And he wasn't back on the ice playing for more than a couple of games before he re-injured and was out again for another month. So going into last night's game, he'd only played 30 games, I think, this season.
Okay.
5 goals, 7 assists going into last night's game. But last night he was the second star in a 5-4 overtime loss, had a goal and 2 assists last night. And he is just tremendously coming along. When he came back from injury, he looked very tentative. He was on the right wing, looking tentative, looking a little unsure of himself. And then got moved over to center when everybody just went, "What? What is that?"
Right.
And stayed there. And so 2 weeks ago, I was in Binghamton to cover the team while they were on their road trip, and had the opportunity to do a one-on-one interview with Scherbak. And so we asked him, have you played center? And he said, well, I've, a couple games in junior, but generally no. And so admitted that he was surprised when the coach assigned him over to center, but says that he likes it so far. He likes playing the puck. Kind of gave an insinuation that it's kind of their way to help him get consistent and play a full consistent 60 minutes because he's got a lot more responsibility at center. Yep. We kind of think that it's also a little bit to get his confidence back, and he's looking a lot more confident. He did admit it. He said, I feel great now. He feels 100%. And he said, honestly, when he first came back from injury, he was not completely confident. This is a quote from him. Sometimes I was scared to go into the boards or the battles, because he didn't want to re-injure his ankle.
Yep.
So now that he's been at center and away from the boards, he's really working hard. And I think that, he's coming along nicely.
Good. I'm Personally, I'm happy to hear that. Nikita Sherbak was somebody I was really looking forward to seeing at the Habs camp this year. Um, Obviously, looking forward to seeing him again there next season.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
I I was when he had his ankle injury. I was pretty upset. I was looking forward to seeing him playing. Well, I was. I was looking forward.
Oh, of course,
I
I'm
was
sad.
sad. I was sad, but I was looking forward to seeing him play pro hockey, and I thought he could. I Going into the season, I actually thought he could be a guy that the Habs could look to on a call up to bring some offense when they were struggling to
Absolutely.
score goals. Obviously, that didn't happen because he was, as you said, looking a little tentative, and now he seems to be finding his groove a little bit. So I'm happy to hear that because I think even Mark and I have touched on it a little bit on previous episodes where we're talking about the prospect pool and Sherbak comes up and we're like we don't really know what to think of him. So it's good
Yeah.
that we're able to have your insight and somebody who sees him all season long.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned the word sad, that you were sad, because Sherbak used that exact word in my interview with him. I asked how he was able to kind of keep his head on straight during all
Yeah.
of the injury, and you could see he got very emotional, and he admitted, he said, it was hard, it's sad, it's hard to come to the rink every day and you feel like you're part of the team, but you don't necessarily feel that way because you're not playing.
Right.
Um, and so you can tell that it was a difficult time for him, but he's really coming back from it.
Yeah, I'm here for him personally if he needs me.
Yeah, Corey's just one call away. For
That's right.
So just
And
quick,
I'm going to give just a quick totally shameless plug here for anybody who's watching who isn't familiar with Ice Caps Hockey Report, which is a sub-site of All Habs. You can find us at icecapshockeyreport.com, and many of the interviews that I've been talking about, even in this segment, are video interviews that you can watch. We've interviewed McCarron, Dietz, Sherbak, Delarose, Dan Carr, Sven Andrighetto, Bud Holloway. I mean, you name it. We've talked to a lot of them this season. So head over to icecapshockeyreport.com and check out the multimedia section for all of the video interviews and a lot more.
that's I'm glad you brought that up because we were gonna shout that out, but I think your summary of it was a bit more fulsome than what I was gonna offer.
Well,
So
and be sure to follow on Twitter as well. I mean, obviously, I do live tweeting during Ice Caps games, but follow at Ice Caps Report as well, and that's our official Twitter handle for the site as well.
yeah, that's awesome. That's where Corey and I get a lot of our, well, pretty much all of our insight on all Habs or on the Ice Caps.
Not a lot, just all of it.
Yeah, not 99%, like
Yeah.
100% of it.
Yeah.
So just quickly before we go,
Sure.
if you could name one player that's currently on the Ice Caps, I know we've talked about a few of them that currently on the Ice Caps, not called up yet. One player that you think has a good shot at making the Habs roster next year, who would it be?
Okay, so not including the call-ups who are up in Montreal right now.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's go with that.
I'd have to say Sherbak.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
I think
Corey-
Sherbak.
Corey's so happy.
Go
right
ahead.
now. Corey's so happy that you said Sherbak.
It's going to depend on how the rest of his season goes this year and how his camps go. But of anybody who's down in St. John's right now, I would think that Nikita's would have the best shot of any of them to get. He'll get called up at the very least. I think they'll take a good long look at him if he doesn't earn a sweater. But of any of them, I would say Sherbak.
That's awesome.
This is just a great example of some of the knowledge and expertise we have on the All Habs, Ice Caps, Rocket Sports Media team. Amy, thanks for sharing your wealth of knowledge on the Ice Caps. We really appreciate you coming on and for providing us with a new pregame warm-up.
Yeah.
Yes, I look forward to more Snack Banter coming very, very soon.
We're definitely going to have to do it again.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We should make this a regular thing. And it's my pleasure. Thanks so much, guys, for having me on. I really appreciate it. And, I can talk about the Ice Caps all day, every day. So happy to do it.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks a lot, Amy, again for joining us to chat snacks and the Ice Caps. I think that was awesome. It was a nice little addition to the episode that we normally don't get. And I'm so sick of that vegetable juice. Let me tell you, it was nasty, and I just kept drinking it. I don't know why. I don't know why you kept swigging it, but
you
Yeah.
did.
It's you know what? It's what you got to do. it's all about the views, you know.
Yeah. I crushed my dragon fruit like it was nothing.
Yeah,
But
no,
anyway.
you loved it. All right, so we last week we did a special edition of Habs Banter to discuss the trade deadline,
Yeah.
and we'll just do a quick this is just going to be 30 seconds. Kind of now that we have a bit more time to
Think about
digest and whatever. A grade for Marc Bergevin on deadline day. Corey,
Okay,
what
so
would you?
I'm gonna give him a B, and I'm gonna give him a B for the reasons I talked about on the podcast. I'm not gonna get into it because you can go back and listen to it.
Yeah.
All I'm gonna say is that he moved the pieces that he had to move. He was handcuffed because of the injuries on defense and his injuries at forward, so he wasn't able to dump contracts. And it's not like any major top six forwards moved.
Yeah.
That had term, so it's not like he missed out on anyone. So I'm going to give him a B.
I'm going to give him a B minus, and partly just because I want to be different than you.
Yeah.
But I think B minus is a pretty good grade. I mean, when I was in school, I wasn't I wasn't an honor student, and when I got B minuses, I wasn't that bad. So, but all that to say, it wasn't just what he did; it's also what he didn't do. And I think the fact that he didn't go after a rental was a positive. And
Yep.
all in all, I think it was a solid day. And B minus, B. We'll
Agreed.
call it a.
Let's move on.
Well, let's move on for sure. All right, so we just had we mentioned the road trip on the West Coast.
Yep.
And late night games, which was devastating. I watched a couple first periods.
Yep.
So a couple things happened. Corey, anything stand out for you that you wanted to point out?
So there were a couple of things. I took a look at the even strength time on ice heading into last night's game. So this isn't including the Winnipeg game on Saturday. Alexei Emelin led the team in ice time. This is even strength ice time, by the way.
Yeah.
And for Subban was after him. For forwards, it went Eller, Galchenyuk, then Pacioretty. So I thought the forward lines was a bit of a was a positive, not a bit of a positive. It was a positive.
Definitely.
Morgan Ellis was one of 6 players that finished those 3 California games with a positive Corsi 4 percentage. The other players were Emelin, Danault, Pattern, Pacioretty, and Mitchell.
Interesting.
So the rest of the team wasn't looking too hot. We got pumped. I think the LA game had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, big time.
They got crushed on that one.
Big time.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, not including last night, but one real bright spot the entire trip was Galchenyuk. And
Of course.
He finally moved to center on Saturday night. And so interesting stat of the day, he had 20 minutes and 1 second on the ice last night, which is only his 3rd time this season hitting the 20-minute mark. And I'm pretty sure his other 2 games that he did were both overtime games. Of course, this one was not. But 20 minutes on the ice, started the game with Pacioretty and Gallagher, which was a great day for Habs fans to see that. Unfortunately, Gallagher got hurt, so we'll see what happens there.
Yep.
But he played, even though it was a rough slide. The fact that he scored a couple goals against Winnipeg, scored a couple goals the other night as well. One of them was on a sick feed from Markov,
yeah, that was cross ice.
Cross ice diagonal, and just one teed it. It was filthy.
Yeah.
It was just it's nice to see, and I hope
the progression. I will just say one thing: the progression of Alex Galchenyuk this season has been incredible, man.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I can only, if they keep him at center with Pacioretty for the rest of the season, I will be one happy man. There will be a lot of happy Habs fans, and we will be more than excited heading into next season.
Absolutely, I think finishing the season strong. I know we've kind of made side references to tanks and whatever, but finishing the season strong with this team is going to do wonders going into the off season and helping. Once we might even get Price back, we'll get to that in a little bit.
So the other big point was the Subban giveaways this week.
Yeah, he had a rough one. I found the 2 giveaways this week were, in my opinion, far worse than the giveaway he had against Colorado a few weeks back when he got called out by Michel Therrien. And it's funny that Therrien was a lot better. His reaction was a lot more professional and a lot.
Yeah,
I think it was a totally reasonable reaction from the coach, and I think PK owned up to the mistakes. And I think especially the one in Winnipeg, Like, he already did a spinorama. He's the last man back. He really does need to make a safer play there, and I don't think he shouldn't be defined as by these errors, but he obviously has to be. He obviously has to, there are times when, yes, he does need to play a bit safer and be accountable for these mistakes.
So it's easy to point out errors on any goal.
Exactly. Absolutely.
On any goal. PK Subban should not change the way he plays. He is the player he is. And it's not like, you know what I mean? When we were complaining about Markov's giveaways, it was clear that it was fatigue. You know what I mean? So it's one thing to complain about his ice time. With PK Subban, that's what you like. You take the good and you take the bad with PK Subban. That giveaway against Winnipeg Saturday night was terrible.
Yeah,
it was a really bad decision. There's no way to slice it any other way.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but that's what you get with PK Subban. You also get the good.
Yeah,
like the team is nowhere as good without PK Subban.
Absolutely.
So people just need to relax. So let's talk about the World Cup of Hockey.
Yeah.
We've got Price going, we've got Markov going, we've got Plekanec going, we've got Patches going already. I want to say that's it.
That's it, I think. Yeah.
On the Habs?
Yep.
Now, the snub, if you want to call it a snub, on the first 16 players named for Team Canada, PK Subban is not on the list. What is your initial reaction?
I can't say I'm shocked. I personally think he should be there, and I think there's a real good chance that he will be on the final roster. Mm-hmm. And that part of it to me is it's just an initial 16.
Yeah.
A number of players who haven't been named yet. There's been a lot of outrage and outcry and all that, but I think it's way too early to get furious about this sort of thing because it's not a final roster. Like there's a bunch of players left to be named, and it's just not worth getting worked up over yet. If anything, like I'm kind of surprised that Carey Price is named on the preliminary roster.
I'll tell you,
he's not 100% yet and all that. But
I'll tell you that I'm worked up about it.
Okay.
Even though you say not to, I'm worked up about it because I'm personally invested into the Habs and I'm personally invested in the PK Subban. Like I love the guy. When I look at the top 5 defensemen in the NHL, I put PK Subban in the top 5 NHL defensemen. When I look at the top 4 in Canada, PK Subban is definitely in the top 4 in Canada. Now, I understand that they're putting together a roster. They put together the 16 names that they put forward are very safe. They are very safe.
Yeah.
A lot of them there for Sochi, especially defensive players. The pairings that they named were pairings in the Olympics. So they're safe.
Yeah.
They're safe pairings, and that's fine. I just think that I personally have to remember, and the people that are outraged about this whole thing, is that Team Canada is putting together a team.
Yeah.
Do I think the team like Team Canada could put 3 teams in the tournament and potentially either of those 3 teams could win?
Yeah.
And PK Subban could be on the first, second, or the third. It's
Absolutely.
like that's just the way Team Canada is built.
Yeah.
So like I'm trying not to take it too personally, but I just look at PK Subban as a top 3 defenseman at least in this country. Even if you hate PK Subban, you have to at least say he's a top 3 defenseman in this country.
I think you're right.
You know what I mean? And it's all perception, and a lot of it is politics, and it's an easy decision to make to bring in the team that they announced, those 16 players. And do I think he'll be on the team? Yes.
Yeah, I think he will. And so you look at the 4 players that they named already, and like you mentioned, they were pairings in Sochi, so that it makes a fair amount of sense. But when you look at some of the players that haven't been named yet, if PK Subban doesn't make the team at that point, then you start to get really upset. Like there's guys like, all right, Brett Burns, he's a good defenseman.
Yeah, but he's not a.
But
yeah,
he's not.
He's not a better defenseman than PK Subban.
No, he's not. And then you look at some other guys, Muzzin, TJ Brody.
But I don't think Muzzin goes because Muzzin plays with Doughty. That's why they were thinking of Muzzin.
Okay, that makes sense. And Doughty's going to probably play with Vlasic.
He's playing with Vlasic,
Okay,
yeah.
fair point. But so for now, I'm not.
So you look at Pietrangelo and Bouwmeester. If those 2 guys go, I don't know. Anyway,
if those 2 guys go, then it'll all depend on whether their 7th defenseman is a right-hand shot or a left-hand shot.
Which is gross. I don't care. I'll just say it. It's gross. If PK Subban's not on, if he doesn't have a top 6 defenseman position on Team Canada, there's something outrageously wrong with that group.
Especially when Marc Bergevin is part of the decision-making process.
Which he came out and he said, I want PK to be there. I hope he'll be there. And honestly, I think it's a matter of them being in that room and saying, let's name 16 safe players who have won and have played together.
Yep.
I also thought it was interesting to close things out on this topic that Getzlaf, when they were in Anaheim, some of the Montreal media were talking to Getzlaf about what type of teammate PK Subban was during the Olympics, and he just gave him a rave review.
Absolutely.
He said, always hard for players that don't play, but he was world class, top notch, like teammate, pushing us in practice, supporting us. Like, so I was
he was
happy.
like the biggest cheerleader on that team. It was awesome to see.
Yeah. So let's talk about Desharnais. This is another question that I got for the All Habs mailbag, and I've already sort of answered, so I don't want to get into it too much. But I should be wrapping up my my mailbag submission tomorrow. So give me your thoughts on where Desharnais might slot back, where he's going to play, that kind of stuff.
I'll give you two answers: where I want him to slot back and where I think he will slot back.
Okay.
He'll probably just go back to center. And it could mean the end of Galchenyuk and Pacioretty. I hope not, but I guess like at this point, there's no reason to believe otherwise. Having said that, I think put him on the wing, second or third line. Honestly, obviously Therrien has no problem with putting centers on the wing, so why not Desharnais?
Yeah.
When we have if you want to give McCarron ice time down the middle, and you want to give Galchenyuk ice time down the middle. And then, so
De La Rose,
Deno. Exactly. Like, we have so many centers. So, honestly, personally, I want Desharnais to be on the wing. And I just think, he can offer more there, too, because of, I think, his, lack of physicality and defensive awareness. So, anyways, that's my take on it.
Yeah, that's fair. And I will bring up 2 points. And I agree. I think that's where Desharnais comes back. And I think he comes back and he plays center and he plays in the top 6. And I'll tell you why. One, Michel Therrien's fighting for his job. He loves Desharnais.
Yeah.
He thinks Desharnais's the cat's bottom, to keep my swearing clean slate on track. He's going to play him in the top 6. 2, he's going to play him in an offensive role. He doesn't like him on the defensive side. Power play time, he's averaged 220 per game on the power play. To give you some comparables, I'll list some names for you. Jeff Carter, Rick Nash, Brandon Saad, Jonathan Taves, Derek Stepan, Evgeny Kuznetsov are all within 3 seconds of ice time, average per game. Dylan Larkin, 20 seconds below.
And they all have a lot more success on power play.
So that's just to give you an idea of how Michel Therrien views David Desharnais, where he'll put him. That's all.
And it's funny. It's you mentioned he's fighting for his job, and his decision with Desharnais the rest of the year could be exactly what loses him his job.
Yep.
Among other things, obviously, but
yep, it could be.
All right. So Price, after the moving on to one last point here, after the World Cup roster was announced, Price had his first media availability since ages ago.
Yep.
And it was to talk about the World Cup, but obviously the questions went towards the injury side of things, how he's doing. He recently started skating with equipment on. I found it funny that he was skating one session. He was taking shots from Desharnais, which just I guess they want to ease him into shots if Desharnais is the one shooting at him. But so it's positive to see after you all remember a few weeks ago we had an injury expert on to speak about the injury when Price had that video come out where he seemed frustrated, not making progress, and now here we are with him seemingly onto the next stage of his rehab. Yeah, what do you think? Do you think he will play this year, or do you?
Yes, I think he will. Yeah. I think he will, and I think he's close. I just don't understand why Carey Price could not come out earlier and do what he just did, because it calmed so many. When we had Will Carroll on a couple weeks ago, like he touched about, he said, listen, this type of injury doesn't require surgery. It takes time. It's harder for a goalie to deal with. The team will bring him back if they can.
Yep.
Because when you're healed from this type of injury, you're healed.
Yeah.
You play. It's going to ease the fan base. It's going to ease the organization. It's going to make Carey Price more confident. They're not going to shut him down because it gives him something to work towards. He's a hockey player. He wants to play hockey.
Yeah.
He's a professional hockey player.
Yeah.
That's what he does. He wants to play hockey. He doesn't want to sit on the sidelines and like. And I think the other thing that was interesting from Price's press conference was when he talked about that 45-minute video or that video where he was frustrated. He said, "I was skating for 45 minutes."
Yeah.
It's like I was tired. I was
Sounds
frustrated.
terrible.
I was in pain.
Yeah.
So why couldn't he come out earlier and do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I smashed my stick over the boards. Like I was in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was skating for 45 minutes. I have a torn ACL.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I thought another interesting point is he did mention that he has come into the room to talk to the guys a couple times. And that I think kind of touched on that. It's not quite the same when you're not currently playing, and I think that aspect of it, he just wants to get back. And even if he plays like a couple of games before the end of the season, I think that's going to do a lot for his confidence going into the offseason, knowing like kind of getting over that hump. And I think Markov actually touched on it a little bit because you'll remember a few years ago when he got hurt.
Yep.
And he came back near the end of the season that one year and looked like a baby giraffe, couldn't skate, like he looked awful. But he got that kind of out of the way and it helped get his confidence back going into the next year and the year after that.
Yep.
I think that's big. As goaltenders and confidence, like it goes hand in hand. So I think
he's obviously a massive part of this team. It's going to be a morale thing for the rest of the team too, just not for Carey Price. If they win a couple games with Price in there, I'm fine with that and giving up like a couple points or a couple draft picks down. I'm fine with that to show like some of the new players and the young players that like this team is different with Carey Price.
Big time. I'm just worried. My big worry is that he comes back and Therrien keeps his job, but that's for another day.
Well, that's worst case scenario. But any coach that keeps his jobs for this madness is something else, and that's another question actually that I answered on the All Habs mailbag. Thanks for bringing it up. So, I think that pretty much does it for this episode. I'm glad we had Amy on because
awesome.
because this road trip that the Habs just finished up was awful. They played 4 games, so that's 8 points. They got 1 point out of the 8 points. It was late. I didn't want to watch any of the hockey games. I'm excited for them to play back at a reasonable time.
Yeah, it's nice.
So I'm excited for that. I also got to give a shout out to my buddy Pearson Allen at Pearson Allen on Twitter. I had been posting on Twitter all week looking for mailbag questions, and he was tweeting me about the UFC the entire week. Talking about and I'm not a big UFC guy. I know you're not much one either, but he predicted Nate Diaz submission over McGregor last night, and I wouldn't. If you're looking for PG content, don't go to his Twitter feed right now because he is boasting all over the place. But good for Pierno. There's your shout out, buddy. Don't forget to subscribe to the Habs Banter podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to the audio on iTunes. And find us on allhabs.net under the multimedia tab and pick up your vegetable juice this week.
Oh, it's so good.
Later, Habs fans.
Have
Peace
a good week,
out.
guys.
See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.